What's up, peeps? Julian Williams here at the distance. Got one or two videos tonight. This one's gonna be Shane Mosley retiring. Pretty much it's as simple as it sounds. Shane Mosley's retiring from the sport of boxing. Pretty much, man, I became familiar with Shane Mosley in like the early thousands. Pretty much like even when I was like a casual fan of the sport, I was very familiar with Shane Mosley. Like when he was, I want to say it was early thousands, late '90s when he was fighting like on USA or ESPN, one of the two networks. Just overall, man, what I liked about Shane Mosley was when he fought, man. You know, you were always, especially early in his career, you would always wonder when the knockout was gonna come. And also early in his career, you know, he pretty much came and he brought on some good fights. Back in 2000, one of my favorite fights that I ever watched, and this was like in early or late 2000, it was Oscar De La Hoya versus Shane Mosley. And Shane Mosley was just moving up in weight to like 147. I want to say it was his first fight at 147. Oscar was coming back from a loss from Tito Trinidad, and Oscar was, was staying busy to try to get that WBC belt. And he goes in and he fights Shane Mosley. And for 12 rounds, both men, gave it all that they had. And Shane Mosley just had a little bit more in that fight with Oscar. One of my favorite fights ever to watch. Just Shane Mosley, it was like they had some of the craziest exchanges. They both were in the prime of their careers. They both had good chins and just had quick hands and were just hitting each other with exchange after exchange after exchange. And to be honest with you, I was thinking, looking at the fight, that Oscar was probably going to come out with it, just because the fight with Trinidad. But Shane Mosley went in and he got the W, got the WBC belt, and was considered like one of the #1 pound for pound best fighters in the world. And then he went in, he lost to Vernon Forrest, and Vernon Forrest, beat him in I believe in the Olympic trials in '92. Vernon Forrest had defeated him, and Vernon Forrest was a fighter that just had his number, of course. And Vernon Forrest deserves a lot more credit within the box community than what's given to him. And I think that injuries have pretty much hampered Vernon Forrest's career. But just overall, man. And then after Vernon Forrest, he went in, he fought De La Hoya again, got the decision against him the second time, and I remember that fight very well. It was like in 2003. It was in September, and I remember at the time I had I remember I had like foot surgery. I had foot surgery, and I remember laying in my bed and watching Oscar versus Shane, and just thinking to myself, man, Shane's gonna lose this damn fight. I was talking so much trash, to some of my boys at school about Shane Mosley going in and beating Oscar De La Hoya again. And I was so excited about this fight, just due to the fact that the first fight was so exciting, and pretty much Shane came out with the decision, and then the Balco thing happened, I guess years later, and now to some people that are critics, they have an asterisk by the victory, but I just remember like right after the Oscar fight, there was a fight with Winky Wright, another man who I will make a video on tonight. There was the first fight with Winky Wright, and I remember being so much of a casual fan that I was so bored with that fight because I didn't really appreciate Winky's style at the time, and I'll get into that in the video. But I was so much on Shane's side that I just thought that Shane was gonna go in and he was gonna pulverize Winky, and boy was I wrong. So after the two losses to Winky Wright, Shane had to come back from scratch. He was fighting on ESPN pay-per-view. I think he fought like a dude Estrada on an ESPN pay-per-view and kind of slowly built his career back up. Fighting on Fernando Vargas. Had the first fight where his eyes swelled up real big, and then that second fight where he knocked out Vargas with that perfectly timed, perfectly placed left hook. Knocked out Fernando Vargas like in, I want to say, the 6th or 7th round. That fight, I didn't even look it up, but then he went in, he revived his career. When he went in, he manhandled Luis Collazo, and then he went in, had that fight against Cotto. amazing. To me, man, one of my favorite fights of 2007 was Mosley Cotto. Mosley just proved that he still had it, and then he fought Mayorga, knocked out Mayorga late, and that was in a fight to where a lot of people were like, "Wow, does Shane really have it?" Because that was the beginning of him having, these long layoffs, and he goes in, he knocks out Mayorga, and then Antonio Margarito had just had that huge victory over Miguel Cotto in July of 2008. He went in there, he pulverized Cotto in a victory that most of us have an asterisk by it ourselves. He went in, and I remember going into the fight when it was made November 2008. The day that the fight was signed, a good friend of mine had died, and I remember it was probably the day of the funeral. I want to say it was the day of the funeral, and I remember my friend had died that day, he died that day, or he died the day before, a couple days before. And I remember just thinking about the fight. And it was one of those times in my life to where, I was almost out of boxing. I was almost out of it, and I really didn't care for the fight all that much. And somebody had spoken to me after the funeral about, Mosley versus Margarito, and I was thinking to myself, you know what? Mosley's probably going to go in. He's going to lose this fight. He looked old against Mayorga. Margarito looked like a machine against Cotto. I'm like, Margarito has a good chin. Margarito's probably going to win this fight. But as time progressed, and I wasn't on YouTube at this time. It was probably about a good year before I was on YouTube. And as time progressed, I was thinking about this fight. And I was like, you know what? I think Shane has one last good performance left in him. And then in January, I want to say it was January 24th or January 30th. It was at the end of January in 2009. Watching the fight live. There were probably 2 times in my life to where I was silent watching a boxing match. To where I didn't say a word. I sat and I looked at Antonio Margarito versus Shane Mosley. I didn't say a word. My eyes was just glued to the screen. And I just remember sitting there looking at the fight live. And Shane had this look on his face to where he was just focused. He wanted to go in and knock out Margarito. He wanted to go in and do something that no other fighter has ever done before. He goes in the fight and also, give credit to where it's due at Nazeem Richardson, because he came in with one hell of a game plan. And he went in the fight and he whooped Margarito's ass. He knocked him the fuck out. And it was that last great performance that Shane Mosley had. It was his last great performance. And because now he's the welterweight champion of the world again. He's back on top of boxing. And unfortunately, he wasn't able to secure a fight with Mayweather and Pacquiao, soon after. And the fight with Pacquiao, may have been a little different in 2009, who knows. But, he went in there, he got the fights that he wanted. He got in there, he fought Mayweather, he fought Pacquiao a year later, he fought Canelo Alvarez, a few weeks ago. He went in this era, and the last era of boxers, and faced some very good boxers. He faced some of the best in this generation, and a couple of the best in the last generation. Vernon Forrest, Winky Wright, Oscar De La Hoya, Floyd Mayweather Jr., Manny Pacquiao, and upcoming star Canelo Alvarez. He's faced these guys, and you know what? What I could say is he went in there and he came to fight. He came to fight, and none of these guys knocked him out. None of these guys put him down. Now, Forrest did knock him out. Didn't knock him out, but knocked him down in that first fight. But you know what? There's no ounce of quitting Shane Mosley. He was all, even though we've heard, the clips of the Pacquiao fight, you know what? He always went to the final bell. He was never stopped. So, best of luck to Shane Mosley in the future. And that was The Distance. Thanks for watching, peeps. Peace.